Hello, welcome to the presentation of the International Research Team. Acá nașunen romanesc consamamen, Messine Sandra anda Columbia, e Yuhan anda Shinatai o Juis anda Ungaria, Simugen Colegura. Amenkeras postgradualo estudia Petraslasia ta interpretasia pro University of Manchester. Today we're going to tell you about an hypothetical research project which is focusing on the experience of Romani people, most widely known as Gypsies, with NHS interpreting service in Greater Manchester. First, we will provide you with a project overview and we'll also describe the research question. We will elaborate on the methodology or research team decided to apply, and you can also learn about the data collection methods and the approach to analysis. Secondly, we're going to describe the research, participants, and the recruitment approach. Next, we will examine the ethical issues to participants and the recruitment. Following that, we will highlight some of the important ethical issues in relation to data collection. Finally, we're going to present the ethical issues related to the presenting of research findings and data storage.
Multilingual Manchester, a research run by the University of Manchester and the NHS in 2016, shows that Romani Gypsy people, the vulnerable population, which is also the least liked community in the UK, they experience issues when trying to access NHS services in Romani, their first language, which may be linked to the lack of professional Romani interpreters. Our research is focusing on the experiences of Romani speakers using interpreting services organised by the NHS in Greater Manchester. Our research goals are to identify language and cultural barriers, to collect recommendations to enhance interpreting services for Romani speakers, decrease health inequalities of the Roma community in Greater Manchester, and to improve access of Romani people to healthcare locally. The broad research question is how helpful Romani speakers find the NHS translation services in Greater Manchester. More specifically, our research questions that we are looking at are what problems Romani speakers encounter when accessing NHS translation services, and also how the NHS can improve its services to provide wide access to healthcare services for Romani speakers. We decided to use a qualitative research methodology where we consult secondary research data already gathered, but we are also conducting primary research activities through focus groups. We are gathering the so-called special category data since we are recording the race and ethnic origin of participants, and that needs more protection because of their sensitive nature. The Roma community is a vulnerable group facing barriers in accessing healthcare services. Therefore, collaboration with Cuscason, the largest Roma charity in Greater Manchester with trusted connections to Roma families, is sought. We are planning to run 8 focus groups with 40 participants in total, each with 5 discussants, where each focus group will be divided based on gender and dialectal variances. Focus groups will be conducted in the first language of participants. Without informed consent, participants will not be interviewed. Interview facilitators will be recruited from the local Roma community. The interviews will be audio recorded, transcribed and translated into English. We will transcribe the discussions using a clean transcription approach, applying the Jeffersonian conventions to our transcription. We will employ a coding method that enables us to organize and group similarly coded data into the following categories: cultural barriers, recommendations to enhance translation services, and problems encountered when accessing NHS translation services.
According to Cuscason, our main research partner, there are 4 Romani language variants spoken in Greater Manchester. Also, women in each of these groups are not supposed to speak in front of men. Therefore, focus groups will be broken down as per gender and cultural subgroups. To have an equal share of representation, the decision is to recruit 5 male and 5 female participants for each group sample to gain an authentic insight into experience of Romani speakers. Payment for contribution will not be provided to participants. However, after careful consideration, also backed by charity advice, we are providing participants with a per diem to cover their expenses in relation to research participation.
Next, we're summarizing the ethical issues relating to how participants will be recruited and their personal data protected, and how we deal with those. Although we are not retaining the identity of any of the research subjects, and we guarantee anonymity, confidentiality, and unidentifiability for our research participants, it is important to note that we are gathering special category data. The ethics decision tool indicated that although the current research may not require an NHS approval, since we are not assessing the NHS data pool, the research team, however, will have to apply to the University Research Ethics Committee to seek approval. In patronizing the principle of autonomy in relation to research and participants, we are providing research subjects the following information using the UK GDPR participant information sheet: relevant research advice, translation of information in Romani, participants' first language, and also read out in the first language since many in their target community are illiterate. Our goal are to give participants relevant information so they can give informed consent to participate. We will tell them in advance what will be done to the data, and they will also have a right to withdraw. Another important ethical consideration to equally represent full Romani dialect in Greater Manchester so they don't feel left out. Since we are gathering special category data, including sensitive information in terms of ethical and race, subjects will be recruited from the local Romani-speaking community with Kaskazan, our main research partner.
After careful consideration, our research team identified the following ethical issues in relation to data collection. Learning from Warren's gender perspective in the 1970s, the research team will recruit a male Roma and a female Roma interviewer with help from the largest local Roma charity to facilitate the focus groups. They will be trained by the research team to handle sensitive topics and how to prevent the discussion from straying into irrelevant fields. The facilitator will have a deep understanding of culturally specific ethical issues, therefore they will be able to naturalize the interview into a conversation. Humanizing the researcher should help dismantle power balances and social distances. All participants will be asked the same questions and in the same order, which means that this will be a structured, also called standardized, one-to-many interview, which will enable the facilitation of the focus group interviews by a novice interviewer too. To address any on-the-spot modification needs, the research team will also be present at the time of running the focus groups. To guarantee honesty and transparency, focus group questions will be clearly worded, open-ended and assembled. We will also share the guide with the charity and the participants in advance. A pilot mini-focus group will also be run in collaboration with the charity to ensure all ethical risks will be eliminated as much as possible. To provide a safe space and a comfortable environment to participants, researchers follow the charity advice and will facilitate the focus group discussions within the regular club activities run by the charity in Bolton and Oldham at the regular dates and times. The research team will audio record interviews and will also take notes. Via the voluntary informed consent, interviewees may withdraw consent after the focus group. However, to minimize the risk of that and to guarantee anonymity and unidentifiability, researchers do not record any personal data of participants other than the Roma cultural subgroup they belong to, their age group, gender, and languages spoken. To warrant data protection, participants' voices in the backup copy will be masked after transcription, and the original recording will be deleted. To exclude risks of maleficence and to make sure the research benefits others, we'll make sure that research contributors will be qualified, use appropriate resources, assess the risks involved, that risks are proportionate to the importance of the research. The questionnaire is as short as possible so as not to waste the participants' time. To minimize risks of direct and indirect coercion, the research team will provide subjects with assurances that there will be no disadvantage to non-participation.
In the final slide, we are reflecting on the ethical issues that may arise in presenting the findings of the research and storing data, and how we deal with these. The consent form will describe terms on the arrangements of data storage under secure conditions in compliance with all current relevant legislation. Data coding will ensure that only research team members will be able to identify respondents. Participants will be ensured that their consent will always be sought prior to using their data for any prospective secondary analysis. To confidently guarantee the anonymity and the unidentifiability of focus group participants, the recommendation is not to archive the encrypted audio recordings, the raw research data, after the publication of research papers, since anonymized extracts will be made available in publication. The publishing of the report in Romani studies, the relevant academic journal, may take even up to 15 months. Therefore, we are planning to present findings at an academic conference of the Gypsy Law Society in English, but also in Romani language at a Kaskazan Roman charity event. Research findings should benefit both the Romani-speaking community in Greater Manchester, but also the NHS, other public service providers, policymakers, and others working with the Roma residents in the UK.